Now we are on our first terrestrial planet, and that is Mercury. Mercury is very difficult to study because it's so close to the sun and it's so hot. We have had many satellites go through and swing past Venus to get to Mercury. Now it is the smallest planet, unless you count Pluto as a planet. If we do count Pluto as a dwarf planet and not a satellite or a moon, then Mercury would be the second smallest planet. It does have the fastest orbit because it's the closest to the sun, so therefore it will spin around the sun faster because it is closer. It is the most innermost planet. And it does have an elliptical orbit, not a circular, but elliptical, a stretched, more like an oval orbit. Mercury gets its name from the Roman god of commerce or trade. His name also comes from the Latin word mercere, which refers to deal or trade. Now we're going to be using a lot of these planet facts as we cover each of the planets. For diameter, it's 3,030 miles. Distance from the sun, 35,983,095 miles. The revolution around the sun, the orbit, this is going to be very important. It takes 88 days. Now the rotation, or the spinning, takes 53 Earth days. So 88 days to go around the sun. So 88 days will be Mercury's year. For the rotation around the axis, the spinning would be 58 or 59 Earth days. So that means one day for us, for Mercury, one spin takes 59 Earth days. So the revolution, 88 days is its year, not 365 like ours, but 88 days, so it's a lot shorter. Its year is a lot shorter, and its day is actually longer than our day. It's not 24 hours, it's 59 days. Now it has no moons at all. Mercury is a terrestrial planet. Terrestrial means land, so basically it's identified as just a lump of rock barely larger than our moon. And basically it is impacted by the heat of the sun as it's so close. It has no atmosphere. It's going to have extreme temperatures from 400 degrees Celsius, which is 752 Fahrenheit, during the day, and then gets very, very cold at night. So it is very extreme day to night. We hypothesize that the inside of Mercury is much like the Earth, having a core of iron. The core could be molten or solid. Mariner 10 did fly by Mercury. This is one of the satellites you need to know. In March of 1974, it took photographs of the surface of Mercury, and these are some of the photographs that it did take. And here's one of the photographs that it did take. You can see the meteorite impacts. Now we're going to move to Venus. Venus is the second planet from the sun, and it has no moons. But it's going to be different from Mercury because it actually has an atmosphere. Because it has an atmosphere, it's going to keep a hot temperature all the time. It is actually going to be hotter than Mercury, even though Mercury is closest to the sun. Venus is the second planet. It has no moons. It has a very slow circular orbit. Remember, Mercury has an elliptical orbit. Venus, however, has a slow orbit. So it does go around the sun, but it goes actually slower. It's not as fast as we would think, even though it's the second planet to the sun. Venus is called Earth's sister planet. Venus is the name of a female god. Venus's rotation is retrograde. This is something you will need to know. Retrograde means opposite. So it does not spin the same direction as Earth, and it does not spin the same direction on its axis as other planets. Venus and Uranus are the only two that are going the opposite direction. Now, Venus's length of day is 243 Earth days. Well, the length of the year is actually shorter than its day, with 225 Earth days. As we said, Venus is named after the Roman goddess of love and beauty. The planet was named Venus because its brightness to those living in ancient times. It was commonly called the evening and morning star, as you could see it during those times, very bright, and is much brighter than a star. So it is not a star, but it is a planet. It was actually thought to be a star. And then originally the Greeks thought Venus was actually two different planets. Now Venus's interior is believed to be the same as Earth, or very similar to Earth, having a molten core of iron. But what's interesting is that there is no plate tectonics. There's no separation of the plates or separation of the surface. There's still a lot of volcanic eruptions, a lot of volcanoes, but there's no release or movement of the plates. So it's believed that the crust might be very hot and very soft, allowing for the volcanoes. Now, we said Venus is a lot hotter than Mercury, and that's because of the atmosphere. Its atmosphere is believed to be CO2 and nitrogen, and the clouds have sulfuric acid. So the clouds are made up of sulfuric acid, no water existing in the planet. Now, the atmospheric pressure is 90 times greater than Earth's. It has high velocity winds in the upper atmosphere, but low velocity surface winds, which is interesting. A lot of scientists don't have an answer for that. And the temperatures on Venus run between 860 Fahrenheit, okay, both day and night. And the reason for this is because the atmosphere traps the heat, allowing it to stay hot both day and night. Now, it is identified that the surface rocks of Venus is basaltic. This is similar to the volcanic rock on Earth. It's believed that Venus's atmosphere is very dense, and this does limit scientists from studying the surface of the Earth. So a lot of what we're identifying in Venus is that the surface is more flat. It does have volcanoes, but these are going to be more of your shield volcanoes. There's really no true continents because there's no plate tectonics, and but it is identified to have canyons, rift valleys, mountains, and craters, even though there's no plate tectonics. Now, the satellites that observed Venus, many of them went to Venus or went by Venus, but some of them actually flew by Venus, took pictures on its way to Mercury, and that was specifically the Mariner 10. Now, the Pioneer Venus observed the topography and the atmosphere by releasing probes in 1978, and then you have the Magellan, which actually mapped the surface in the 1990s. Here's the Adams impact crater in Venus, and then we have the pancake domes and the Tick, which is a collapsed volcano called a caldera. And then we have Maxwell Mons, which are our highest mountains on Venus.